Cam Newton reflects on the Browns' quarterback battle and how Shedeur Sanders has created competitive commotion. It is more than common knowledge by now that the Cleveland Browns have twice as many quarterbacks on their roster as the number of wins they had last season. The Browns' QB room is, in all seriousness, a joke. No doubt recent training camp injuries led to the signing of Tyler Huntley, but even before that, they had 5 signal callers. Long story short, the Browns now face some difficult decisions as the recent performance of Shedeur Sanders during the Week 1's preseason game has created further confusion. Sanders, who infamously slipped to the 5th round of the draft and was drafted after Dillon Gabriel, sits as the 4th-string quarterback on the Browns roster. The competition ahead of him is an aged Joe Flacco, a turnover machine, and Dillon Gabriel, who was drafted higher than Sanders for reasons best known to the Browns. Cam Newton shares his thoughts on Shedeur's recent performance. Breaking down the current chaos in the Browns' QB room, former Panthers quarterback Cam Ward provided his insights to the situation on his podcast named 4TH and 1 with Cam Newton. The former number 1 overall pick not only had positive things to say about Sanders, but also put forth a theory known as the 3CS, create competitive commotion. You in a quarterback battle, big dog. We need everybody to start saying, "Ooh, the boy looked good. He showed promise. Did he have some mistakes? Absolutely. Could he have done some things better? Absolutely. But when given an opportunity, and you make the most of that opportunity, you've created what we call triple C, create competitive commotion." Sanders played in his first game under center at the NFL level last week against the Carolina Panthers, where he looked confident and put in a solid performance, completing 14 of 23 passes for 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. Granted, he was playing against one of the weaker teams in a preseason game with backups, but even then, his confidence and the way he looked on the field generated a positive vibe overall. And as per Newton, that is exactly what Cleveland needs, hope. Newton proceeded to compare the competition in the Browns' QB room and expressed his opinion that if this continues, the Browns will have no choice but to play Sanders as their starter. You give them people hope, and they start to say, "Hold on, bro Flacco man, your own kids don't even think that you good. Hey man Dillon, respectfully, bro Kenny Pickett, brother, watch out. Go on to Scutch. Deshaun, you're draining us financially, and you're hurt." So now in comes a person that can give these folks hope. It's going to be a monster created so much that the coaches, the organization, and everybody else are going to have to play Shedeur Sanders. Interestingly, following Sanders' well-received performance after the first preseason game, the newly released depth chart of the Browns still shows him as their 4th-string QB. Just how long, and what the former Colorado Buffaloes star will have to do to climb the ladder is not known, but the Browns are sure to miss out on a talent if they keep him so far back on the depth chart. Mandatory credit, Jim Deadman main images. This, he says, tapping the table as if punctuating a play, is competition. It's beautiful chaos. He laughs, a warm, rumbling sound, and lets the phrase land. He's not talking in headlines. He's talking in the cadence of someone who's lived locker rooms and late-night film sessions, someone who knows the rhyme scheme of pressure and possibility. Cam's reflection on the Browns' quarterback battle is part admiration, part coaching note, part fatherly caution. He watches the new faces with the same curiosity he used to reserve for rookies who threw with reckless honesty. Shedeur Sanders, in particular, has drawn his eye. He's created competitive commotion, Cam says, using a line that feels like a headline and a compliment at once. It's not about flash, it's about how Shedeur's presence alters the ecosystem. Reps are more contested, decisions get sharper, and veterans remember what it feels like to be challenged. To Cam, commotion is the seasoning that wakes up a roster. It forces coaches to be precise with evaluations and forces teammates to re-earn trust in practice, not just nostalgia. When a young guy like Shedeur steps in and moves the needle, everybody gets a little better, Cam says. That's the value of competition. It's not about knocking someone down. It's about making the room louder, making the plays crisper. He traces the line from college superstardom to NFL baptism with a tenderness that softens critique. Everybody wants it fast now, fast starts, fast headlines. But the league's a slow teacher. You have to build patience into your hunger. In his reflection, Cam draws out the finer points. Pocket presence that isn't panic, the way to keep shoulders square when chaos folds around your feet, and the difference between arm talent and leadership. He admires Shedeur's arm, his pocket comm in flashes, but he's just as eager to underscore the invisible ledger of a quarterback's craft. How you talk in the huddle, how you walk in the locker room, how you take a hit and keep the eyes soft enough to read the secondary. There's a mentor's phrase that keeps popping up in Cam's talk: competitive courtesy. It's the notion that when competition is real, it's also respectful. You push, you test, you take reps, but you uplift the room because you all eat from the same playbook. That's what Shedeur does, Cam observes. He shows up, he competes, but you can tell it's not about ego. It's about making the Browns better. That's the difference between commotion and chaos. He's candid about the psychological ledger, too. Young quarterbacks inherit an entire narrative that coaches, media, and fans help write. Sometimes kindly, sometimes not. You gotta be careful with the story they tell about you, Cam warns. You don't want the noise to shape the player more than the player shapes the noise. He remembers how praise can become pressure, and how pressure can calcify into fear if not managed. So when he watches a rookie like Shedeur handle scrutiny with a certain steadiness, Cam nods approvingly. That's maturity already, he says. You can see it in small moments, how he handles a bad rep, or how he answers a reporter. That's the scoreboard nobody counts. At the heart of his reflection is an insistence on process. Cam leans forward, voice lowering like he's drawing a play up on a whiteboard just for you. This is a season. Not every practice is a verdict. You build layers. You fix small things so big things don't fall apart. He talks about film study as a ritual, about the importance of rest, and about the humility that comes from knowing the game will always test you. When you respect the process, you respect the craft, he says. And when you respect the craft, you earn the right to be loud. He's hopeful, too, for the Browns, for the quarterback room, for the way a competitive spark can turn into sustained heat. Competition births clarity, Cam says. If Shedeur keeps creating commotion, good things happen. Not because he's loud, but because he forces others to be better. And that's the real win. He watches the next wave of players file past the cafe and smiles.